Welcome to part 1 of the Kodiak Sew-Along by Styla Patterns. This tutorial will cover the flat-felled version and will end with constructing and attaching the sleeve cuffs. So grab those zippers, mark your pieces, and let's begin. Locate the front bodice side panel top and corresponding front bodice side panel bottom. Place the front bodice bottom wrong sides together with the front bodice top. Pin or clip into place. Sew to attach with a 5/8 inch or 1.6 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the top panel seam allowance. The bottom panel seam allowance will be folded toward the top panel to flat fell the seam. Locate the corresponding front bodice center panel. Place the front bodice center panel wrong sides together with the completed side bodice. This is a curved seam, therefore the curve will be eased into place. Begin by pinning or clipping the straight edge. Place a pin or clip at the top of the curve and at the end of the straight edge as indicated by the arrows. Use the waist cinch marking as a guide to align the pieces. Sew to attach with a straight stitch and a 5/8 inch or a 1.6 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the side bodice seam allowance. The center panel seam allowance will be folded toward the edge to flat fell the seam. Repeat the above steps for the opposite front bodice pieces. Locate the pocket main, pocket lining, pocket facing, and corresponding front bodice. Make sure all the markings have been transferred from the paper pieces to the fabric pieces. Adhere the pocket interfacing to the wrong side of the pocket facing and to the wrong side of the bodice main. Place the pocket facing right sides together with the front bodice. Align the pocket markings and pin into place. Slowly sew on top of the pocket markings using a straight stitch. At the corners, keep the needle lowered raise the presser foot and pivot the fabric. Using sharp scissors, cut a slit through the facing and the front bodice. It is important to be precise. Do not cut through the stitches. Push the facing through the opening. If using soft shell, it can be tricky to get the facing to push through nicely. Wash away tape, or carefully pressing on a low heat setting can be helpful. If the corners do not look nice, they may need to be clipped a bit closer to the stitching line. Finish the outer edge of both pieces. For fabrics other than soft shell, finish the top edge as well. Press the top edge of both the pocket main and lining 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter right sides together. Press the outer edge with the pocket markings of the pocket main 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter right sides together. Do not press the outer edge of the lining. If using zipper tape, cut a 7-inch or 18 centimeter piece and add a zipper pull. With the zipper and the lining right sides up, place the zipper along the finished edge of the pocket lining. Center the zipper between the markings on the lining. The wrong side of the zipper will be touching the right side of the lining. Make sure the zipper pull is at the top when the zipper is zipped. For the canvas jacket, the top edge should remain folded. Sew into place using a scant 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Fold the zipper away from the lining. The top edge of the lining is folded right sides together. Place the pocket main on top, right side down. The zipper edge of the pocket main is folded right sides together. The right side of the main will be touching the wrong side of the zipper. Pin or clip along the unsewn zipper edge. Flip the entire pocket piece over. It should look as follows. Make sure the outer edge remains folded. Sew the zipper to the pocket main using a scant 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Stitch to the bottom of the pocket to secure the fold. Place double-sided tape along both sides of the zipper. Locate the corresponding front bodice piece and place the zipper behind the pocket opening. Center the zipper in the opening. The center and bottom edges of the pocket should align with the center and bottom edges of the bodice. If the edges don't align perfectly, it's okay. They can be trimmed at a later step. Pin or clip the pocket main and lining to the bodice to hold the pocket in place for this step. Making sure everything is aligned, edge stitch along the outside edge of the pocket opening only. Remove the pins or clips holding the center and bottom edges in place. Pull the pocket main out of the way. The pocket lining will remain aligned with the bodice. Edge stitch along the opposite side of the pocket opening. Make sure the lining is laying nicely and that the pocket main does not get caught in any stitches. Flip the pocket main back to align with the pocket lining. Edge stitch the two short ends of the pocket opening, connecting the previously sewn edges. Lift the bottom edge of the bodice to expose the bottom of the zipper and the pocket. The pocket lining will be folded wrong sides together at the bottom of the zipper. Keep the bodice fabric folded up and out of the way. Using a straight stitch, sew the folded pocket lining edge to the pocket main. Sew as close to the zipper stitching as possible. Fold the top of the bodice down and out of the way to expose the top of the zipper and pocket. Sew across the top of the pocket using a 1/4 inch or 0.6 centimeter seam allowance. For soft-shelled jackets, finish the top pocket edge. For the canvas jacket, both top edges should be folded inside of the pocket. From the wrong side of the bodice, the pocket should look as follows. The bottom edge of the pocket main and lining will be trimmed to reduce bulk for a later step. Trim 1/2 inch or 1.3 centimeters from the entire bottom edge of the pocket, so the bottom of the pocket is approximately 1/2 inch or 1.3 centimeters shorter than the bodice. Baste the center edge of the pocket to the bodice. If the pocket pieces slightly overhang the bodice edge center, trim the pocket piece to match the bodice. Repeat the entire pocket construction for the opposite side of the front bodice. Finish the front center edge. The pocket will get caught in the stitching. Locate the back bodice pieces. Place the back bodice pieces wrong sides together, aligning the center edge. Sew to attach with a straight stitch and a 5/8 inch or 1.6 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the right back bodice's seam allowance. The left back seam allowance will be folded toward the right back bodice to flat fill the seam. Locate the back bodice bottom. Place the back bodice bottom wrong sides together with the back bodice. Sew to attach with a straight stitch and a 5/8 inch or 1.6 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the back bodice top seam allowance. The back bodice bottom seam allowance will be folded toward the top to flat fill the seam. Lay the back bodice wrong side up. Place the two front bodice pieces on top, wrong sides together. Align the shoulder edges. Sew to attach with a straight stitch and a 5/8 inch or 1.6 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the back bodice seam allowance. The front bodice seam allowance will be folded toward the back bodice to flat fell the seam. Locate the sleeve front and back pieces. Place the sleeve piece wrong sides together, aligning the straight edges. There will be a dog ear on the sleeve front piece that will extend past the sleeve back piece. This is so the seam allowance will be flush when pushed toward the sleeve back. Sew to attach with a straight stitch and a 5/8 inch or 1.6 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the sleeve front piece seam allowance. The sleeve back seam allowance will be folded toward the sleeve front to flat fill the seam. The sleeve cap will need to be gathered slightly to fit the armscye. The gathers will not be visible once the sleeve is attached. They're simply to help ease the sleeve into the arm opening. Sew a gathering stitch 1/4 of an inch or 0.6 centimeters from the edge of the sleeve cap. Lay the jacket bodice right side up. Make sure the correct sleeve is being used for the correct side of the bodice. Place a completed sleeve wrong sides together with the jacket bodice. Align the sleeve seam with the bodice princess seam. Baste the sleeves into place at the princess seam or sleeve seam to make sure the seams will line up once sewn. Pull the gathering stitch very slightly to fit the sleeve to the armscye. Sew to attach the sleeve with a straight stitch and a 5/8 inch or 1.6 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the bodice seam allowance. The sleeve seam allowance will be folded over to flat fill the seam. The seam is curved and can be tricky to press and top stitch. Use a lot of pins and maneuver the fabric under the sewing machine to make sure the fabric is not wrinkled as you sew. Fold the front bodice right sides together with the back bodice. Align the side edges and the sleeve edges. Sew to attach the side and underarm with a straight stitch and a 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Finish the seams. The side seams can be pressed and top stitched toward the back bodice if desired. Locate the sleeve cuff main and lining. The lining should be 1/8 of an inch or 0.3 centimeters shorter than the main. Place the main and lining cuff pieces right sides together. Sew to attach at one long edge using a 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the seam allowance to 1/4 of an inch or 0.6 centimeters. Press the seam allowance toward the lining. Understitch the seam allowance to the lining. Fold the cuff in half, right sides together, aligning the short edges. Sew to attach at the short edge with a straight stitch and a 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Trim the seam allowance at the center where the seam intersect. Cut a triangle shape. Do not cut through the stitching line. Press the seams open. Fold the cuff in half, wrong sides together. The lining is 1/8 of an inch or 0.3 centimeters shorter. Therefore, the main fabric should fold slightly to the inside, hiding the seam. Baste the main and lining together at the raw edge. Turn a sleeve wrong side out. Slide the cuff into the sleeve, right sides together, aligning the raw edges. Align the seam of the cuff with the seam of the sleeve. Sew to attach the cuff with a straight stitch and a 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Finish the seam. Turn right side out. Press the seam away from the cuff. Top stitch using 2 rows of straight stitches. Repeat for the remaining sleeve and cuff. This completes part 1 of the Kodiak sew-along. In part 2, we will finish the waist casing, the hem facing, the hood, and the front zipper, which will complete the jacket.